So you want to build a chat application using Twilio's programmable chat, and you want to build it in Swift. But when you look at the Twilio documentation, you see that you're going to need a web server that creates access tokens in PHP or Python or some other language, but you want to build that in Swift. Well, by the end of this video, you'll be able to do just that using Vapor. Alright, to kick this off, let's use Vapor new and call our application token server. That's going to create our application for us. I'll change directories into the project, and then I'm going to open in a text editor. I'm going to use Atom for this. The first thing we need to edit in our project is package.swift, and we need to add some dependencies for our project. The first dependency is going to be a package I wrote, which is a small Swift helper library to create Twilio access tokens. So we'll add the URL for that and the major and minor versions. And the second dependency that we're going to use is a package that makes it just a little bit easier to work with environment variables, system environment variables. It's not too hard to work with them in Swift, but this package makes it as simple as typing env and then looking up the environment variable. It's a nicety that I like to have in my Swift projects. Once we have the dependencies added to package.swift and save it out, we'll run vapor build, which will fetch the dependencies and build the project. This is going to take a little bit of time on the first run. I've sped it up for the purposes of video, but it might take a little bit of time on your machine. Once we're done there, we'll head back into the project and open up our main.swift inside of sources and app. This is going to be our application. I'm going to import the Twilio access token package and the environment package at the top of this file. And then I'm going to get rid of this boilerplate. There's a couple of endpoints in here that we don't need. Once we're done there, we'll add our route for the token. We're going to do a post request at token to get the token. Specify that there's a request in this block, and then we're going to use a guard statement to set up some things we need to have for this to run correctly. The first one's going to be the identity of the user. This is, you can think of it as their username. And that's going to be inside of the post request listed as identity. There's also going to be something in the post request for the device the person is using. Then from the system environment variables, I'll grab my account SID, my Twilio account SID, out of environment variables using that environment package. And then I'll do the same sort of thing for the signing key inside of my Twilio account and the secret for that signing key. There's some cards appearing now that'll show you some documentation for how to set these up inside of your Twilio account. If any of these properties are missing, we abort with a bad request because we need those things to be passed in. Next, we're going to set up a Twilio access token, and that is using the library that I wrote, and that's going to be taking in the account SID, the signing key, and the secret that we had passed in to the request and also accessed from the environment variables. And once we've created the access token, we'll set the identity on the access token equal to the identity that was passed in the post request. The next thing we need to do is create a chat grant so we can create a token that will allow us to join a chat server that uses the IP messaging grant struct from the Twilio access token library. It has a few properties. One is the service ID for the chat instance inside of your Twilio account. I have that stored in an environment variable. The other property that it takes is an endpoint ID. And you can think of an endpoint as the unique identifier for an individual user inside of the chat application. In our case, we're going to use the name of the application coupled with the identity and the device for the user. Once we've created our chat grant, we need to add it to the access token so that that token will give us access to the chat application. So we'll just call add grant on the access token. And then the last thing we need to do is return the identity and token as a JSON object. So we'll create a dictionary to hold the properties and values, key value pairs. The first key is going to be identity, and we'll pass the identity with that. The second one is going to be token, and we'll use the access token object to create a JWT or JOT representation of our access token. That's what Twilio expects. Finally, we use Vapor's return JSON mechanism. So return try JSON, and then that takes a node, and the node in this case is going to be the response dictionary. That's really all there is to it to generating the Twilio access token. Once you've got that completed, we can head back to the terminal and build the application. And once you've built the application, use vapor run serve to fire up the local token server. Heading over into another terminal tab, I'm going to create a curl request to post to our token server, passing in the identity and the device. I'm going to use my first name and the iPhone simulator as the device. And that request is going to go to localhost port 8080/token, which is where our Vapor server is running. And there's the token, but it's not very helpful because it's a bunch of jumbled text. We really can't test that too well. Thankfully, there is a tutorial for chat applications in Swift inside of the Twilio docs. And there's a GitHub repo for that project that we can just clone and test on our local system. So I'm going to clone that locally and then change into the project and use pod install to install the Twilio libraries. And then I'll open up the Twilio chat XC workspace inside of Xcode. Now there is a bug in this application in the current repo, so I'm going to fix that real quick inside of the token request handler. I'm sure you can see what's going on there. We will fix that in a future version. Inside of the project, we need to head into the resources folder and into the keys.plist file. There's a property for the token request URI. We just simply need to change the port to 8080 here. And then we're good to go to run the application. Once the application fires up in the simulator, there's going to be a text box for a username. I'm going to punch in my name, Brent, and click the login button. The application will make an HTTP post request to the Vapor server to get a token, and if it's valid, we'll get logged into the chat application. It worked, so let's send a chat message to test out that it indeed does work with the chat server. Looks like we're good to go. That's going to do it for this video. If you enjoyed this, we have a lot more videos coming from Twilio. Please click subscribe so you know when they come out. And check out some of these other videos to learn more about how Twilio works. Until next time, I'm out of here.